Are you wondering what's changed in business so that you can implement things and get better results? Or have you been trying a bunch of things and only to realize that they're just not working in spite of implementing them to perfection? We've evolved. We've changed, yet for some reason, all of the same old business tactics and techniques are still being taught. And I want to break some of the rules. I want to talk about what the new rules of business is. In fact, these are such new rules that nobody else is teaching them. I really intuitively feel that people are tuned into them, but they maybe don't have words for it. They just feel the call or the urge to do things differently, but don't know how to do things differently. And so that's what I want to dive into today. Okay, so I'm going to just go straight in here. But before I do that, there's been some big things happening in my company over the last few weeks. And some of you caught a training a couple weeks ago. Who caught that training? Who was on that training a couple weeks ago? It was right after I got back from a high-level event in Phoenix, Arizona. And yeah, so if you caught that training, you already got a clue. It was a very vulnerable share of what I learned at this amazing event with Alia Brown. And so over these past 2 weeks, I essentially have been building a company from scratch. And so what I mean by that is that I feel like I have a blank canvas to paint on, which means I get to completely define the rules all over again. And I'm learning about basically how this training came to be today is because I started thinking about everybody who's building a business. And I'm in this place of, if I knew then what I know now, what would I do differently? And now I'm doing everything differently than I did when I first started my business a number of years ago. So that's ultimately where this training is coming from, is I want to give each and every one of you a head start, no matter where you are in your business, to be on the leading edge of thought, the leading edge of business creation, wealth creation, getting more, accomplishing more success with less effort, all of those pieces. And in order to do that, we have to start living, earning, working, playing with a new set of rules. So that's what we're going to be diving into. Again, there's really 3 pillars that are standing out to me to really rock out these new rules in business. And ultimately, these 3 pillars are the foundation of the company that we're building right now. And it's all about alignment, wealth consciousness, and business energetics. Now, that said, because we're incorporating these 3 things, many of the traditional tactics and strategies and ways that we're being taught to build and grow our businesses become almost obsolete when we start playing by these new rules. So yeah, I can't wait to dive in. So again, I want to talk about 9 new rules for business. Some of them are completely defying and flipping the switch on old rules. Others of them are simply just brand new rules, brand new focuses that can help you achieve, accomplish, feel much more successful, full of joy, in the flow, and abundant. So the first new rule is space versus execution. There is a huge push right now that's all about the hustle, all about the push, all about the go for no, do more, be everywhere, be on every social media platform. If you're not doing something, you're slacking off. If you're not taking action every minute of every day on your business, you're being lazy. If you're not taking massive action all the time, we get the message that we're not working hard enough, and that's why we're not getting results. So there's this big epidemic, that's the word I'm looking for, epidemic, that it's like hustle harder, push harder, do more, go. Those who work the hardest get the luckiest, right? And this is an old rule that's been passed down from generation to generation. Now, I'm not saying we're gonna like sip margaritas on the beach and just have all of our clients and wealth and impact fall into our laps, but this pushing is so not the way anymore. And frankly, it's barely working. More and more entrepreneurs are struggling, falling behind, burning out, giving up on their dreams and their visions and their missions. So this is where, when I say space versus execution, is when we're doing, when we are on all the time, we don't have the space for the most brilliant ideas and shortcuts to reveal themselves in our business, to reveal the quickest path that's in most alignment with who we are and who we're meant to serve. And so space is all about creating the space and knowing that it's only in space that we get ideas that shortcut everything else, that we can be guided, that we can step into a place of flow. And if we don't give ourselves permission to have space and we're just keep doing, we're lengthening the path of really creating and bringing the big vision to fruition. Here's the other thing. I love this little game of what I know for sure. I love playing a little Oprah here, right? And I invite all of you to do that too, because it's a part of your messaging. Here's what I know for sure. Wealth only comes from one place. And when I'm talking about wealth, I'm talking about the materialization, like the actual money that you hold in your hands can only come from one place. It comes from ideas. It comes from an idea that serves the world in some way. Many times we think it comes from solving people's problems. Yes, but in order to solve people's problems, we have to have some sort of idea. And I'm going to talk about another kind of rule to break about rather than trying to figure out what the market needs or the problem to solve, when we create space, we actually get the ideas from a higher place. We tap into that one mind, that consciousness that's higher, that ties the thread between all of us, that creates the oneness. And it's those ideas that ultimately are the $1 million ideas. And it's those ideas that when they come and we implement them and we take fast action on them and we stay focused on them and we're pulled forward by them as opposed to pushing the boulder up the hill, that's when things move. That's when miracles unfold. That's when you get your lucky breaks. That's when you're called to reach out to one person and it multiplies into multiple referrals from that one person. But we can't have the ideas or the divine downloads or whatever you want to call them without space. If we're constantly feeling the space of what should I be doing? I have an hour here. Oh, a client canceled. What should I be doing? Maybe I should get on social media. Maybe I should go live. Maybe I should. And maybe that time and that time freedom was created solely for the purpose of space. Because maybe the universe, God, source, your higher power just wants to give you a little tap on the shoulder and say, hey, I got something for you, but I need you to stop and listen and get present. Not for the intention of coming up with the idea, because that will block it, but just be. So let me check in here. Who's picking up what I'm putting down here? Who feels that pressure, like that when you aren't doing, that you're falling behind or that you're losing traction or that you're losing momentum if you're not constantly filling in the space with action, with all the shoulds, with all the ads that are crossing your feed about all the things you should be doing and all the places you should be in, all the ways to get clients. Just imagine all those freaking ideas just waiting for us to hear them. And so what does this take, right? What does this take to be able to create the space? It takes trust. It takes patience. It takes knowing and confidence that what's meant for you will never elude you. It takes also complete faith in knowing, and this is where when I say these are the new rules, one of my business rules is that when I co-create, everything happens 10 times faster. But in order to co-create, it has to be a partnership between myself and my higher self. But if I'm going to leave my higher self out of the equation, then I take the long way. Because when I keep my higher self out of the equation, I'm like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get it done. I'm going to go, as opposed to creating a space for the fastest path. Yeah. Okay. So let me go to the second new rule. And you know what? This actually isn't that new of a rule. It's just a rule that's really easy to forget. And that is that this truly is a marathon, not a sprint. Now, many of you are like, but I want it now. I can see it so clearly. I'm the same way. I get it. I get it. I want things right away too, especially when you get a big vision that's so exciting. It just pulls you forward, and I want it too. But the reality is that it's okay to grow slow. And I think this is another message that we get out there so much, that we have to grow fast. The quicker, the better. Go, speed, 100K in 90 days, which I'm laughing because, as you all know, I did a training not too long ago about how I generated 100K in 90 days, but there was a difference. There's a shorter way to honor the going at its own pace, to allowing things to take its own natural space and pace, as opposed to making it happen within a certain time frame. It's just simply not sustainable. And so it's realizing sometimes, similar to space versus execution, sometimes when we slow down, we actually speed up. So I mentioned earlier, I'm in the process, I'm two weeks into this process of building a new company from scratch. It's growing really fast. It's coming to fruition really fast. But it's meant being okay in the moments when I don't know the next step, and being willing to sit in the question, being willing to just know that the answer is going to come. And this is going to tie into some of the other new rules I'm going to be sharing with you. And for me, it's like building a business from scratch. I've made this commitment, and really a commitment to myself, to not do anything for this business unless it feels inspired, aligned, fuels my soul, is joyful, fun, and exciting. And I get goosebumps thinking about that, because when we build businesses from that foundation, from that framework, no matter where you are in your business, how built it already is, when you flip this switch, the joy, the excitement, the fun, and the fulfillment happens in the act of doing the business, not as a result of what comes from the business. So this is it's okay to grow slow, to be patient, to trust, to play the long game, because there's a lot of businesses built fast, but they crumble after a year, after 2 years. We're seeing this a lot in the really big coaching industry, really big names who built their businesses solely on a tactic or a strategy, but that tactic or strategy is no longer relevant, and again, is becoming obsolete. So if the tactic or strategy, for example, is Facebook ads, and that's how I grew one of my first businesses, was solely on Facebook ads. And then all of a sudden your Facebook ads account is shut down, or Facebook goes under, or whatever. If that's what you use to build really fast, it can be fickle and it can fall apart just as fast as it was built up. Yet when we focus on slowing down, when we focus on the next thing, which is the next thing that I'm going to be sharing, when we focus on slowing down, building relationships, connecting deeply with people, social capital is the only thing that is forever lasting. So when we know that it takes time to build relationships, it takes time to nurture people, it takes time to connect on a deep level, it takes time to build a following that's incredibly loyal and will be with you or by your side no matter what happens, no matter how many right turns or pivots you make in your business. That's sustainable. And that takes time. We can't speed up. Most people don't meet somebody on the first date and decide to marry them the next day. It just takes time. So be patient and know that when you're focused on building those relationships, that social capital is for the long haul of your business. And yes, there's other strategies and tactics. And no, it's not an either or, it's a both and. But when we follow the speed and we're like, I'm going to do this because I can get the most leads and I can go really fast and I can go. And then all of a sudden something happens. And I'll just share, in my case, go speed, tens of thousands of dollars in Facebook ads, built a list of 20,000 people, but I didn't connect with the people. So I have 20,000 people who heard from me, and I was on to the next and on to the next and on to the next. And there's no relationship there. And so it's like quality over quantity, a bend on the path. Trust me, it grew fast. It made thousands of dollars, but for what purpose? For what purpose? Which is why else I'm so excited about being in this position of building another company from scratch and really focusing on being patient and the marathon. Because just to let you know too, when you're building something that means so much to you in a way that this is your legacy work, or this is your mission, or this is your movement, or this is the dent you want to leave in the universe, when you're building that sort of thing, it takes patience, it takes time, and it's worth the time. It's worth it when you care that much about it. Okay, so let me check in here. Who feels that same pressure? Go, speed, fast, fast. I need money. I need clients. Let me know what's coming up for you around this sprint versus marathon. Who feels like they're running a sprint? Who feels like, oh, that's what I was going to say. The needing clients, needing money. You know what? What's wild when I think about business? This is another new rule that I didn't even write up for today, is we are so demanding of our businesses. seriously, if you were in a relationship with your business, we're like codependent, we're demanding, we're pushy, we set high expectations. Why do our businesses want to play with us? And I'm speaking for myself. I think about sometimes how I've treated my business. It's your job to give me clients. It's your job to make me money. It's your job. We're so demanding. And our businesses really just want to play. They want to play. They want to give us a platform and a vehicle to express ourselves, to be in joy, to be in freedom, to be in expression. And if you start thinking about your business, and again, this is the sprint versus a marathon, as a true relationship, like how are we really treating it? Because if we need our business to fill some need, we're codependent on it, right? If we need our business to fill some need. And so, yes, do we have financial needs? Yes, of course we do. But ultimately, if you're feeling that much pressure or you're putting that much pressure on your business, it has to produce or else. First of all, you're rejecting the opportunity or really the ability to draw in consistent, sustainable revenue. Secondly, sometimes we just need to release the pressure valve. We just have to find something to fund our dream for a little bit, just to release the pressure valve so that we can come back into a space of joy, fun, and excitement with our business as opposed to pressure. Okay, perfect. Let me see here. You're welcome, Trudy. Struggling to allow the creative side because you feel the pressure to make money and staying on track. Completely natural. And it's a real thing. And I'm going to share this with you guys. This is huge for me. And actually, this is pretty vulnerable. So while my business has been very lucrative, and I never shy away from being transparent about talking money, it's generated almost $300,000 in the last. So let me tell you, while I'm creating this new company, 5 weeks, like the 4 weeks prior to this week, my business generated $0. But here's the thing. I knew and I know that it's creating the space for what's coming next. And I'm in so much joy and so much happiness and so much gladness that I've been given that space. Because if I were to just keep focusing on generating the revenue, I'd be going back to how I was doing business as opposed to what's in alignment with me for me now. So even when your business is thriving, there are always everything ebbs and flows. There's always going to be a high tide and a low tide. And it's how we interact with and treat our businesses in that low tide that affect everything. We literally, like, I always have that Tommy Boy scene where he's talking about the sale and he's got the car and he just like crashes it all over the place. When we're having those times where we're in low tides, financially or whatever it may be, the more it creates pressure and stress and need and all this stuff, we are suffocating our business with our energetics. We are killing our ideas. We're killing the opportunity to actually get clear about what will generate the revenue because we're focused on all the wrong things. And I don't mean wrong. I do mean wrong things if what you want to do is generate more abundance. So I say wrong. I don't mean wrong. It's repelling what you're actually trying to get. Okay. The third thing, and I started alluding to this, is rather than focusing on getting clients all the time, which is the short game, focus on building that audience. So I talk with my clients a lot about what I call a money well. And it's depending on where you're at in your business, and maybe you've been in business a long time, but you haven't found that way or that consistent path to consistently generate revenue and clients. No matter where you're at, there's always a well. And so if you think about an old water well, and I promise I'm not old enough to actually have ever pumped a well. Maybe I have, I don't know. But when you think about a water well, and for those of you that are like way younger than me, you're gonna be maybe like, even what is a water well? But a water well, it's like you pump and you're pumping and no water comes. And you keep pumping and no water comes, right? And then all of a sudden, what happens? The water starts flowing out and it just keeps coming because all the pumping you did was creating the pressure for the water to build up and come up and out. And so when you think about your business, and you think about building an audience versus getting clients, is I'm going to turn on the faucet and run out of water, or I have a bucket of water and I get to drink it, but then it's gone. Whereas a well, it's like building an audience is where you're building slowly. You pump and you pump. You're building those relationships. And I already mentioned this in the last one. And you're really connecting and you're really invested in building that audience and building those relationships. And again, this is where it's like, what do you want to build? Do you want to build a business that just generates revenue, or do you want to build a movement? I know the clients that I work with and that I know are perfect for me is they've got something in their heart that says, I'm here to do something big. I'm here to actually shift some paradigms or make a difference. And I want to do things differently. And there's a change I want to see in the world. And I know that I've got the skills and the tools to be able to do it. And building an audience is about building a movement. It's about building a mission. It's about creating change. It's about, and that takes people, and that takes time, and that takes tribe, and that takes community. And getting clients is something we can do on our own. And that's great too. And again, it's not always an either or, it's a both and. So how can you, yes, generate clients, but also always be focusing on building an audience and pumping that well? Because there's a tipping point. There's a tipping point when you focus on building an audience, that all of a sudden now you've got an audience and you have a brilliant idea that comes in that was like the exact solution that people are looking for. Now you already have an audience. You put your idea in front of an audience and it just goes. That's what I mean by the water's now flooding in. But without an audience, every new idea, you're basically starting from scratch to build the audience to match the idea. But when you have an audience and you build that loyal following, then no matter what you're creating, you can put in front of that audience because they already know, love, and trust you. And if it's in alignment with them, you have built-in launches, built-in whatever. So it's really about building an audience. Ashley, yes, Ashley, you are doing this so brilliantly. It's like Ashley keeps doing hikes and nature hikes at least a couple times a month. And more women keep coming out. And it started with maybe 3 women, and then all of a sudden it's 6, and then all of a sudden it's sold out at 8, and then it just keeps growing. And is it taking time? It's taking time. It's been a few months. Yet what happens is it just grows and grows. Oh my goodness, Shannon, I don't know if Shannon's not here right now, but if she watches this, she can say hi. But Shannon was just talking about how her Tai Chi teacher, he just would show up on the beach every single, think about this. What if you're marketing in this way? Where you're like, I love Tai Chi. Like, I love it. It fuels my soul. It gets me excited. Like I'm not saying that for me. Like, I would love to learn how to do Tai Chi, but that's not my thing. But if that were your thing, and I just am committed to going to the beach every single Thursday to do Tai Chi. And I'm going to invite anybody and everybody I cross paths with who have an interest in it. And before he knew it, the beach started filling up. Every week, more people would come. It started spreading. It was a movement. And it was completely unintentional. He was simply doing what he loved and sharing it with people who also loved it. So start getting creative. What are some of the things that you love, that you will love doing? I have another client, Maggie, who she wanted to just hike barefoot. And rather than just going to hike barefoot by herself, she's actually inspired by you, Ashley. Rather than just going to hike barefoot by herself, she chose to just put it out there and say, hey, I'm showing up at this park. We're just going to play, have fun, let loose, and we're going to hike. And we're going to do it barefoot if you feel called to. That's what I'm doing. If you want to, great. And it's just like, how can you build that connection doing what you love? Because when you're seen doing the things you love, you are magnetic. And people want to be around you even more, which is building your movement and your audience. Okay, there's your focus on building an audience. Yes, absolutely. Focus on getting clients and those pieces. Staying in alignment will bring the clients much more quickly. But always be thinking about the bigger picture, the longer term, the sustainability of what you're really wanting to build. That's really the big question. What are you really building? What are you really building? And I hope it's not just a business. And I know that people in this group, it's not. It's something that's pulling, it's a vision that's bigger than yourself that's pulling you forward. And get really clear, what are you building? And have the patience to actually build it and see it come to fruition. Okay, the next thing, we've talked about space versus execution, marathon versus sprinting, building an audience and community and tribe and following as opposed to onesie-twosie clients, and putting all of our attention on getting the next client rather than building for the long haul. I'm going to the next one. The fourth thing is focusing on focus, thought, and emotional discipline. Again, where I'm going with this is when you take action, if it's not from a place of feeling good, feeling excited, feeling inspired, feeling joy, the action is not going to be effective. In fact, you're better off doing nothing than doing something that you should be doing or that feels like a chore or that you're dreading, right? So I saw this thing. Those of you, I don't know, I'm guessing quite a few of you have had some, oh my gosh, like an introduction to Abraham Hicks, Esther Hicks, who channels Abram. They're all about alignment. Unless you're in alignment, you're either repelling or attracting your vision. And you can always feel based on your emotional discipline. So when I talk about emotional discipline, being so disciplined in ensuring that you just feel good. I tell this to people all the time. You really only have one job. You really only have one job, and it's to feel good. If it doesn't feel good, find a way to step into another level of feeling. There's an emotional grid. There's a hierarchy of emotional feeling with energy and vibration. Everything vibrates. It either vibrates slowly in the middle or fast. The higher the vibration, the faster it vibrates. And then the faster you're stepping into manifestation, right? So there's kind of energy in a nutshell. And so aligned energy vibrates very fast, which means you're getting closer and closer to the thing that you want. But when we don't feel emotions that feel good, we're repelling the ability to attract things. And I'm going on another little energy tangent here, and ultimately, when we're focused on how far we have to go, we just keep getting further away. And so this is all about having emotional discipline, being aware of what you're feeling and experiencing, and knowing that, yes, at times you will be experiencing emotions that are uncomfortable, but being willing to be in acceptance of those emotions rather than judge them or have them spiraling all over the place. And the acceptance, or even the feeling of hope that it's going to improve, is a higher level vibration than experiencing the emotion that was before it. So emotional discipline. Now, here's the thing that I find fascinating when I brought up Esther Hicks and Abram. They have, again, this is coming from divine wisdom. And so I believe it. I believe it, and I know it to be true in my own experience. But when I talk about focused action, focused thought, and emotional discipline versus action, what I'm really talking about is, listen to this, 17 seconds of pure thought that's in alignment with emotions that feel good is equivalent to 2,000 hours of taking action when you don't feel good. 17 seconds of pure thought and emotion that feels good. When we talk about manifestation, drawing things in and attracting, and like energy attracts like energy, and repelling success, and when we're actually closest to the thing that we want, clients, impact, a new red car, freedom, flexibility, whatever it is for you, it's coming into alignment with the emotion and feeling of it that then brings it to us. And so it's, everything is as close as your breath. We just haven't tuned into the frequency to receive it if we haven't received it yet. So that 17 seconds of pure thought is equivalent to 2,000 action hours. Then they take it a step further. 34 seconds of focused thought and really aligning to an emotion that feels really good: excitement, joy, freedom, peace, love. 34 seconds is equivalent to 20,000 hours of taking action. Don't underestimate the power of energy and alignment. Don't underestimate the power of the one job to feel really good, to just feel really good. And if the action doesn't feel good, yeah, we have to do things we don't love. But we can always step into a higher level of the vibration, whether it's dishes or laundry or whatever it is. And ultimately, when it comes to your business, there's no question that you love the delivery of what you're giving, if it's coaching or teaching or writing or whatever it is that you're delivering. There's no question that you love that. But find a way to market and sell your business and your services that's also in alignment with what feels good. So if public speaking doesn't feel good to you, then find another avenue that feels better, because it's how you feel that's going to direct really the results. So that leads to, yes, Wendy, I prayed for my direct. Yeah, if you feel yourself being like, oh, I hope this person doesn't show up, or oh, I hope that this happens, doesn't happen. It's probably a good clue that it just doesn't feel good, and that's a clue or a sign that we can find something that feels more in alignment. Okay, so these first 5 are all about the energy. I mentioned alignment and wealth consciousness, and then business energetics. So these first few are all the energetic piece. The last 4 plus the bonus is all business energetics. The 5th thing is intention trumps all. For example, if you're like, I'm meditating every day, or I do affirmations all the time, or I'm doing all these things that I know tap me into my creativity and wisdom and all that stuff. If you're doing them for the purpose of attracting clients, you're actually coming from a place of lack. So the taking the action from that place is not working. So that's why so many people are like, I don't get it. I meditate every day. I visualize my dream. I do all the right things, but it's not working. That's why it's not working, because it's why are you taking that action? The same is true when you're consuming content. Why are you reading that book? Intention trumps all. Because if we're consuming content because we think we got a little gremlin that says, who am I to teach XYZ? Or I don't know as much as that person. I should learn more before I put that out there, as we're shooting on ourselves. Then we're consuming content from a place of lack. So no matter what we're consuming, it will just feed more into the doubt and the insecurity. And then there's also consuming content from a more anabolic place. If we're consuming content because we're excited, or maybe we feel intuitively guided to read something. For me, that was the Power of 8 book. It crossed my path and I was like, there's something about this. And I picked it up and it contained a missing puzzle piece of what I was going to be creating in my business. So consuming the content is not good, is not bad, is nothing. It's the intention why we're doing it. And same with meditation, or same with visualization. If we're doing it to get something, in return and making it all about us and our wants and our desires, we're limiting its effectiveness. But if we're doing it purely for the joy of doing it. So I tell people, some people are shocked. I say, I actually don't meditate. I don't meditate because I know that I can tap in at any given moment when I just access this place of presence at a moment. And so again, for me, when I was meditating all the time, it was because I wanted to raise my consciousness. I wanted to become more creative. I had all these desires. I was putting expectations on meditation that it had to meet my needs in some way. But when we're whole and complete and doing things just for the joy of doing them, that's the sweet spot. That's the sweet spot for action and everything. Okay, so think about why you're doing things and what are you shoulding in your business, because it's what you're supposed to be doing. Supposed to be doing this, so I should do this, I should do that. And it's, again, if you're doing it because you're coming from that place of, if I do this, then it gives me that, who's it about? And when we play with intention, we play with energy, the act in and of itself, then like the joy in the act of it in and of itself is what multiplies the results. So I've told you guys many times, I don't do these trainings for you. I do them because I love doing them. I don't do these trainings to get clients. I do them because I love doing them. I love sharing. I love connecting. I love hearing what you have to say about what I'm sharing. I'm in pure joy. That's why they last so freaking long. And so there isn't an ulterior motive here. There's no expectation. There's complete non-attachment. Now, has it yielded generating revenue? Big time. But that's not the purpose that it was meant to serve. That's just the icing on the cake. So intention drives, trumps everything. Okay, let's get into the business. These are the new business rules. For those of you especially that identify with being higher conscious people, which if you're in this group, you just are. So you've heard me say this before. This has provided so many people relief. When I say ditch the niche. So if we're ditching the niche, what are we doing instead? Okay, so when is it the right time to ditch the niche? If you are stuck, feeling unable to move forward because you can't identify your niche, or you can't clarify it, or you can't get your marketing message straight, then it's time to ditch the niche, because there's so much pressure on figuring it out that it's interfering with your ability to, again, create the ideas that actually are in full alignment. Everything that you want is right in front of you. I see this over and over again with people where all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's like a no-brainer. Oh, it's been here all along. I just couldn't see it. A lot of times when we're so attached to figuring it out, we can't see it. But as soon as we detach from it, the awareness just comes through. Also, the other thing when I say ditch the niche is that again, what do you want to build? What do you really want to build? And so for me, technically there's a niche here, but ultimately it's when you step into your zone of genius, your unique gifts, and you express them, or you come to know who needs them the most, It varies. So actually where I want to go with this is if you ditch the niche, instead what you can do is step into the expert space. So a lot of the people that I connect with, what they say is my messaging, it sounds good, but something's a little off. Or I have my audience identified, but it doesn't seem to be landing with them. And so rather than having a perfectly identified niche and message to match that niche, the difference is, what do you want to be known for? If you were the queen of the world, what would you change? If you were the world's best at something, what would you be the world's best at? And where I'm going with this is if you identify with or see yourself as a thought leader or as a pioneer or as a change agent or as a paradigm shifter, a niche serves very well if you're not in that space. But if you identify with being in that space of wanting to create significant change of some kind, what you're actually called into instead of a niche is, again, a movement. And so what is the thing you want to see change? What is the thing you want to take a stand for? And when you think about Brene Brown, she's a vulnerability expert. It was something she was passionate about studying and researching. And she was just following her own joy about uncovering these questions that she had been sitting with, and ultimately has built an entire empire on top of it. But it didn't start with saying, who do I want to help? What do I want to help them with? It started with her following her own interest, her following her own inspiration. Think about other people. Tony Robbins, he's a peak performance expert. Think about anybody. Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule, she's a clarity and confidence expert. We were just talking about this. I always share the story of, there's a coach in Chicago. I don't think she's in this group, but she has identified herself as Chicago's #1 relationship coach. Who gave her that designation? She did. And that's great. So it's like realizing if you step into that expert space, that you can create a movement in a really powerful way. So it's like, what are you the expert in? And when you have an expert, when you're an expert authority in something, then that actually defines your audience more so than like demographics, psychographics, it's deeper. There's a core energetic behind it that moves people, that magnetizes people because you're so passionate about it. It pulls you forward. So that's when I say ditch the niche and create a movement, become an expert, own your space, become an authority, own your corner of the market space based on what you're most passionate about, the message that you want to get out there, the change that you want to see. Be a leader, be the leader, as opposed to trying to match an audience, which leads to number 7, which is attract your tribe rather than match the market. So for this, again, create first. Create the things that make your soul sing. Create the things that you are called to create, whatever it may be. Don't even worry about how it's going to be monetized or who it's going to serve, because I'll tell you, again, one thing I know for sure is anything that you are infinitely passionate about, infinitely excited about, infinitely keeps coming up for you over and over again. Like it's a vision that just keeps coming and coming. And you might even have to go way back, but you'll find these patterns through your whole life, that it was placed in your heart because it's already designed. It's already designed to be of massive service to humanity and to people. We're always trying to figure out how to help people. And it's, guess what? You already have everything you need to help people by just following what speaks to you, what you want to share, where you want to go. So now, rather than trying to uncover who's my market and what are their problems and what are their challenges, instead what we're doing is, what do I love to do? What am I passionate about? What makes my soul sing? Where's that sweet spot for me? Where's my zone of genius? And then how might that zone of genius or sweet spot serve people? That we're flipping it over. We're doing it backwards. That means we're not market researching. We're not, and I just want to say too, everybody talks about speak to the pain points, and that works depending on, again, what I'm really sharing high conscious marketing and sales here, because it doesn't work for everybody. You have to have a certain level of consciousness for this kind of attraction and magnetism to really come through. But, and if you're here and you're drawn to this, you have it. Like you have, this works for you. If you weren't, then you already tuned out or checked out or didn't watch or whatever. But just know that this is high conscious marketing, is when we go to the market and try to get the answers, then we're not leading. We're not on the leading edge of thought. Because again, when we're on the leading edge of thought, it's coming from a higher place that's already ahead of the market. And if we're always going back to the market, we're actually going backwards, and going backwards is just keeping people exactly where they are. So attract your market instead of find your market or meet your market or match your market. So I don't do market research. And then the other thing too, and I heard this at Allie Brown's event, she said she got into a place because somebody told her this is what you do, is she started interviewing her list. What do you want from me? What do you want to hear from me? What do you want to learn from me? And then she said it was in that moment that she stopped being a leader, because she was asking people who were stuck what they wanted, and then she was giving it to them, but they only could see what they were stuck in through their own lens. And so this is where it's be willing to be bold and be the leader, and be willing to follow those creative ideas, the inspiration, the genius that's coming through, knowing and trusting that it wouldn't be coming through if it wasn't going to serve the highest good of everybody you're coming in contact with, as well as yourself. So this leads directly into what I've mentioned before: live, earn, and play in your zone of genius. Live, earn, and play in your zone of genius. And this also means not doing everything on your own. If it's not in your zone of genius, if it's in your zone of excellence, and again, I can just speak from where I'm at right now. So I know I'm very clear what my zone of genius is and what it isn't. And as I'm building a new company from scratch, I have never, because I know that what I'm building is the time is right. Everything about it, it's right. It's perfect. It's going to awaken people. It's like everything about it is it's on, and I just know it. I know it from a place beyond myself. So as a result, I trust and also know that I want to do everything. I want to leverage other people's zones of genius, which means I'm banking on this vision. I'm making significant investments for people who feel aligned and connected to what I'm building, hiring copywriters, hiring branders, hiring people who get and understand the mission and the movement that we're creating. And that's their zone of genius. I could spend hours and hours creating stuff that's not my zone of genius, and I'd be cutting corners. And so when you have something that you believe in, when you're truly confident and you believe in what you're creating, be relentless about playing and living and earning in your zone of genius, because it frees up, again, the space for you to really move things forward. I want to come back to you, Erin. What about researching languaging? I don't even do that anymore. At the end of the day, again, it's all about the intention, right? So if I'm researching languaging because I feel like I don't know enough about my audience, or I'm not going to be able to say things that they actually connect with, then I'm researching from a place of lack or not enoughness. If I'm researching languaging because I'm looking for inspired ideas that are going to spark some creativity, then that's a different intention of actually doing that. So while I'm working with a brander, I'm looking at other people's brands as a place of inspiration. So again, the intention is, what speaks to me? What do I like? What don't I like? So it's more still all about me than it is about matching a market. So it's like, what makes me feel good? Again, if our only job is to feel good, what lights me up? What feels amazing? What feels confident? What exudes who I am and what I want to share and the mission that I'm on. And I want to just say too, when I say it's all about me, there's the nuance and the energy, right? Because I'm not saying it's all about me for me. I'm saying it's all about me so I can feel at my best, so I can be of the highest service I can possibly be in. Because I know that if I'm not feeling my best, I can't be at the highest capacity of service, contribution, and vibration that makes the impact that I want to make. So everything is about honoring. So again, if I'm researching languaging and it's for me, for my own creative sparks, for my own inspiration, for my own divine download, or because I'm guided to it in some way, that's one thing. But if I'm going to it because I'm trying to match my market, because I don't know what they're saying and I don't know how to say it, and then that just doesn't even feel good. So just go where you feel good. So if researching languaging feels good, then do it. If it doesn't, then it's not really serving your business. Good question, Erin. Thanks for chiming in. Okay, number 9, which I started alluding to, is bank on your big vision. Bank on your big vision. Take your vision seriously and go. You will be so supported in your big vision. You are supported, you are guided, you are loved. It would not have been given to you unless it was meant to come to fruition. So if you were called to make investments to bring your big vision to fruition, again, it's like, make the investment not because you're in intention trumps all. I should put that last. Intention trumps all. Make the investments to bring the big vision to light, not to speed it up, to move it, right? Actually, that's one thing I'm struggling with these new rules is I typically just do the work myself because I like to move really fast. In this energetic space, the ideas come and I implement super fast. I build things really fast. And as I'm hiring people and outsourcing and delegating certain aspects that aren't in my zone of genius, it's forcing me to be more patient. And it's a really powerful place to be as well. Yes. So bank on your big vision. Like, it's amazing. We bank on so many things, but we don't bank on ourselves. Bank on your big vision. Hire the best. Don't cut corners. I just knew that, like, when you have a vision that's pulling you forward in such a huge way, it's just take it seriously. Like, trust and know that you wouldn't be pulled in such a powerful way unless you were just so fully supported. And that any banking you do on this big vision that you do in a way that feels good, it's always going to come back tenfold, always going to come back tenfold. So bank on your big vision, take it seriously and go. I'm having updated photos done tomorrow. Yeah. So I hired a photographer, and I have to tell you, I've never hired, and I found people that are so aligned. Oh, I just found the most amazing brander and copywriter. They're so excited about what they're creating with me. That's how you know that they're phenomenal. But I have to tell you, as soon as I hired those two people, I instantaneously, the ideas flood in. Oh, they could help me with this and they could help me with that. And all of a sudden I felt this immense level of peace because I have this support. I've got my anabolic team that we can create anything because they've got this zone of genius and I've got this zone of genius. So I get the idea. Now I have the designer, the web developer, the copywriter who gets my voice and what I want to say and how I want to say it. And I can bring that idea out into the world much more quickly because I'm not going to be bogged down with how to design the web page and how to write the copy and all of that. It's just, it's amazing how much peace comes when you start to truly just trust and delegate out those pieces when you find the right people. Okay, so I've got one more bonus. Break the rules. It's amazing. You know what I have to say? Who's coaches who maybe aren't even necessarily traditionally coaches put so many rules on us. Really think about that. I try to be careful not to put rules on, even all these new rules. I think I even say it on a lot of these trainings. Don't believe anything I say. Run it through your own filter. If it doesn't feel good, don't listen to it. If it feels good, go. And when I say break all the rules, if they say you have to do one-on-one coaching before you do group coaching, or you have to be on Facebook, or you have to do video, or you have to do things this way in order for it to work, or you have to do it in this order. Like, who says? Because here's again, what I know for sure is that when you do the things that feel good, that feel exciting, that pull you forward, that magic happens, that doors open up, that opportunities present themselves. And so however you're marketing yourself, however you're selling yourself, throw the rule book out and start asking yourself different questions. Instead of what's going to work the best, we talked about this. Be willing to find questions instead of answers. Instead of what's going to work the best, what will get me clients the fastest, those are all the wrong questions. Instead, ask, how can I build this business in a way that feels fucking fantastic? How can I magnetize clients doing something I love? How can I be visible in my zone of genius? They're different questions. They're expansive. You can feel the expansion as opposed to the constriction. And start thinking about what are the questions that you want to start asking yourself that allows you to define success by your own rules, that allows you to define your business by your own rules, that allows you to create your life by your own rules. This is your rule book. And if our only job is to feel good, and we're doing things that don't feel good, then it's time to change the rules. It's time to break the rules. And I have to say, I have to give Keisha Franklin a huge shout out. You guys check her out totally, because she's also working on some really magical stuff and bringing this powerful Caribbean experience out into the world. But Keisha said this, and it was such a nugget of brilliance. She said, wealth without abundance is meaningless. Generating wealth for the sake of generating wealth without having abundance is meaningless. So how can you create the both and? Meaning, how can you create wealth, which is actually the physical materialization of money, while also living an abundant life. And ultimately, that's the company that we're building right now from scratch, called The Wealthy Minimalist, is how can you be more, do less? How can you generate wealth and at the same time experience incredible freedom, impact? And I'm just going to share this too. When Keisha said wealth without abundance is meaningless, I have so many stories from my life where I've wondered, maybe I have it all backwards. And one story that stands out was as I was a juvenile probation officer for almost a decade, working with disadvantaged youth, youth living in poverty, youth living with abuse, really challenging situations. I remember clear as day, one summer day, I was going on a home visit and I walked into this client's home and he had his aunts there. He had his mom there, his dad there, his siblings. They were listening to music. They were grilling out. It was the middle of the day. And I was hit with this realization, like, who am I to tell them the right way to live their life? Because here it is the middle of the afternoon. I'm in a stuffy business suit, carrying files, and they are having a blast. And it was in that moment that I realized sometimes we have it all backwards. I was playing by all the rules: go to college, get a great job, make good money, have a good pension. And when you start thinking about giving yourself questions and sitting with questions, where do we have it backwards? They still obviously were struggling with the wealth aspect. And that's where it's like, how can we create the both and? So break the rules. Some other questions you can start asking yourself, like flipping the switch when I say break the rules. What if I charged more and it took less time? What if I netted less and made more? This was another thing that came out of the Ali Brown event. Multiple seven-figure entrepreneurs talking about, you know what? My business did less last year, but I made more because I simplified it. I simplified everything. So my overhead was significantly less. And as a result, I generated more revenue, even though my overarching numbers were less. Yeah, start playing with questions to break the rules. Okay. How we doing? I'm going to be shutting us down here in just a couple minutes. I'd love to hear thoughts. There's a huge connection there to authenticity. Yeah, Laura, you're so right. So be willing to make it all about you. Make it all about you. Your business is a reflection of you. And when you infuse your you-ness into your business, then the people that you're meant to serve are there just waiting for you. Yes, Michelle, purge, getting rid of all the stuff you thought you had to learn. Exactly. And then just tune in. What are you called to learn? What's really interesting to me right now is I'm actually fascinated with Instagram. And I'm like, where is this coming from? I've never felt the call to have a presence on Instagram, yet somehow I have 700 followers and I've never ever posted one thing. But I can feel, it's like, why all of a sudden? It's calling me in some way. So it won't be long. Actually, that's the first place we're going to be unleashing our new brand. But it won't be long. And I'll be on Instagram because I'm called to. I want to understand it now. I want to understand it because I feel called to it. I don't even know why I feel called to it, but I don't want to understand it because I'm trying to grow my business. Yes, Erin, you are the queen of fun, flow, vision, inspiration, and yes, keep following all of that, releasing the shoulds. I wanted to share, Erin, this is also the shortcut piece. Sometimes we think I have to do this, and then I can do this. So Erin's got like the most brilliant ideas for like full-blown, one-of-a-kind retreats. She lives in Hawaii. And it's, Erin, those are the ideas that never leave. And you're just called to create. You don't have to, you can kill the rules of, I have to do this in place and that in place and that place, and then I can do my retreat. It's do the thing that you think is way down the road now, because it just keeps coming up over and over again. Mia, alignment with a lot that you've been pondering. Awesome. Hopefully this was a little tap from the universe if it was alignment. Yes, I love that, Jennifer. It is a Willy Wonka size permission slip to do whatever the heck you want. Just do what feels good. Yes, Terry, you have broken the rules. You are breaking the rules, and keep bending them. Keep bending them. Get out of the box. Stay out of the box. All right. So thank you, everybody, for your contributions, for holding the space, giving me the space to rant, to share, to express myself. And I hope that each and every one of you takes some time to go and start creating your own rules. So when I said these are the new rules, at the end of the day, there's only one rule. There's only one new rule. And that one new rule is exactly what Jennifer just said. And that's to just do what feels good in your business. If it doesn't feel good, don't do it. If it doesn't feel good, it's not the right path for you, because there is a path. It's effortless. It's easy. It's actually right in front of you. And when you follow that path, magic and unlimited possibilities unfold right before your eyes. As long as we stay detached and in our knowing of what's coming and in excited anticipation. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome rest of your week and weekend. And I'll see you the next time. Bye.